living in a war zone because you don't know when a bomb will drop where you are. And that's it for you. You know, and we might not see it that way, but we are in a war. This might be in relation to the journey of the Israelite people, but if you make a modern day application to the whole thing, you know, the devil is out to destroy us, you know. And we have to live each moment with the awareness that we are living in a war zone, that we have to keep close to our Creator, that if our lives should be snatched out at any time, we'll be all right.
Amen. Now, for those who have studied, is there anything you want to share at this point? And remember, when I do the lesson, it's not like day to day. Just speak about the lesson. You would have done that during the week. So you are free to speak from any section of the lesson, depending on what you have garnered during the past week. So is there anything anybody wants to point out here based on the topic? Yes, Sister Kelly. Like you're working, brother. Okay, let us continue. Now, I'm not touching Sabbath afternoon because that's what we want to end on. Now, there's a subtopic that says covenant first. And picture it, brethren. All of this worship took place after they crossed where? Jordan River. They were in enemy territory. They didn't even overcome the Jerichonians yet. But what did God do? Sister Eichel.
Right when they're going to be war, they were circumcised. All the generation that born in the wilderness circumcised at the time when they would be after out for 3 days. That just tells me that they'll leave everything in the hand of God, because they weren't the one that were going to fight the battle. God was going to fight the battle for them. And it tells me that when I am in problem, I shouldn't worry. I should just leave the problem to Jesus, because he promised to stand up for me at all times.
Amen. Now, let us do a little groundwork here. The children of Israel left the land of Egypt. Now that set, 20 and older, they were the ones who died in the wilderness wandering. Not the wilderness journey, no. The wilderness journey is what they took from Egypt to Canaan. But they didn't go over in Canaan. They stopped at the border. So when the spies were sent in, 10 came back with bad reports, and the people chose to believe them. So they murmured against Moses and Aaron, planned to stone them. God stepped in and gave them some judgment. Persons died. And he also cursed them by saying they would go back into the wilderness for how many years? 40. They took 40 days to spy out the land of Canaan. And for each day, it equals to 1 year. So the children from 19 down is that generation went over the Jordan River. Those who were born in the wilderness and those who came out of Egypt as little children. And a few like 0 to 19, all right? So while they were in the wilderness and their parents were getting older and dying out, they were getting older too by 40 years. So by the time they reach over into the promised land, some of them would have been 59 going 60 and back down. Okay? So it's a new generation. But brethren, when you read their life story, them never different from them parents. A pure trouble then gives them even to reach over into the promised land. Okay? No, they were not circumcised. Because while God's people were in Egypt, they forget about God's covenant Majority of them, not all of them. They forget about the covenant they had with God. Circumcision was not practiced anymore. And God took away the Passover from them. God himself took away both of them from them. Both ceremonies were taken away from them for that 40 years they spent in the wilderness. Because they murmured that they wanted to go back to Egypt. And the Passover depicts them coming out of Egypt. So God said, okay, you want to go back? I'll not take you back to Egypt, but you're going to stay in the wilderness. So the Passover is going to cease, and also the ritual of the circumcision. So God was actually renewing all of that with the new generation. So all of those men, the soldiers, everybody who was supposed to march around the walls of Jericho had to be circumcised because God was renewing his covenant with them. They were his special people. And these covenants and feasts, sure. Understood? So what God did, come in, Brother Louis, what God did, Sister Ike, your hand is up? Okay, what God actually did. Remember that statement that God made some time ago when we were studying the lesson with Moses in it? God said, I'm going to bring you unto myself. So he stopped everything and he said, no, it's time for what? Circumcision. And so while you look at it, the human being will look at it, but it's time for them to be getting ready for what? War. Because they were just about to go fight who? The people of Jericho. But God said, no, priority is priority. So when you get up in the mornings to go to work, going to your war on the job, because I am numbered with the Israelites. What role am I playing among the Israelite army? Who am I? Brother Louis.
The point I want to make in relation to what you're saying, Sister Rose, is in the gospel, in the book of Hebrews, when the Apostle Paul drawing some analogy to the experience of the Israelites as they move out of Egypt into the promised land. And verse 1 started out by saying, let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. He said, they, because of their unbelief, did not enter into his rest. And we have to be careful that we don't lose the promise. Now, Jesus upon his departure to heaven said he's gone to prepare a place for us. Israel was promised an inheritance through Abraham. And we are promised an inheritance far better than any that Abraham could get. But we need to look at the similar circumstances that we are faced with as we journey